Hola estudiantes, in this video we are going to learn about infinitives and forms of gusta or of the verb gustar. And please make sure that you are taking notes and following along and listening carefully for any practices that you need to do as part of your notes that I will check in class. Okay, so to start us off, we're going to talk about infinitives. This is an important thing to know, the definition of an infinitive, because I will ask you about this many times throughout the year. We'll be using infinitives all year long. An infinitive is the most basic form of a verb. What I mean by that is that it's a verb that hasn't been conjugated yet. We've already learned a little bit about conjugation in learning how to conjugate the verb ser. We've learned that the verb ser means to be, and that this is the infinitive form, okay? To be is the infinitive. An example in English of conjugation, which we do in English as well, we just haven't learned how to do it like that because we grew up speaking English. An example of how to conjugate in English is I am, you are, he or she is, we are, you all are, and they are. I've taken the verb from its most basic form, to be, and instead of saying I be, you be, he be, which doesn't make any sense, I've changed those words to reflect the tense that I'm talking about, in this case the present tense, I am, you are, he or she is. And the word to be is the infinitive, and that is the most basic form of the verb. When we have an infinitive in English, it always starts with the word to, to. So, for example, anytime we have a verb that's starting with to run, to eat, to play, these are usually, they're always actions, but sometimes like to be, you don't think of being an action. It could be like a more physical action, but also something that you don't think about, like to like or to breathe. Those aren't something that we think about as actions, like these are like activities. But anytime it starts with the word to in English, it's going to be an infinitive. In Spanish, the way that we recognize an infinitive is not by a word at the front, it's by looking at the endings. There's 3 types of infinitives in Spanish, and we know if the word is an infinitive by looking at the end. Okay, the 3 types of infinitives are AR, ER, and IR. AR is the most common type of infinitive. There's more AR verbs than any other type. Some examples of AR verbs that you already know are hablar. Okay, you know that this is a verb that means to talk, like in hablar por teléfono. Hablar is the infinitive, and it is an AR verb because it ends in AR. Preparar would be another example. To prepare is what I would say in English. ER is the second type of infinitive and the second most common type of infinitive. And some examples of ER verbs would be like leer for to read, hacer for to do, and comer for to eat. Finally, we have IR verbs, and IR is the least common type of infinitive. An example of an IR verb, which by the way, this is the only one that we know right now, is escribir, which ends in an IR and means to write. In English, they all start with the word to. In Spanish, we recognize an infinitive by the ending, knowing if it's an AR, ER, or IR. When you're taking notes, I've given you on my board some extra spaces where I'd like you to think about some additional infinitives that you know that are AR and ER infinitives, some words from our vocabulary. You're not going to be able to do any IR ones because we only know escribir right now. But in your notes, I want you to make sure that you write 2 additional infinitives for AR and ER verbs. And you can go ahead and pause this and do that right now. Okay, you got it? All right, so once we have our infinitives, we need to know how to use these with the verb gustar, which we've already learned a good portion of the verb gustar. So, just like before when we've learned ser, we're going to be making a chart to go over our forms of gustar. Now, gustar is technically an infinitive, and literally it means to be pleasing to. We don't say stuff like that in English. We say to like, or I like, or he or she likes, okay? But literally it means to be pleasing to in Spanish. The pronouns are structured a little bit different when you use gustar than they are with ser. The only ones that are really significantly different are these first 2 forms. And then the thing that you'll notice is that we have the word a in front of our pronouns, and that's only right now for the verb gustar. It's called the personal a, and it does not have any English translation, but they use it in Spanish. So a mí is the pronoun that goes in front of the form of gusta, and me is the form of gusta that I would use to talk about myself. Remember, me gusta means I like. A mí is in parentheses because it's optional. I can say this or not. It doesn't really matter. So a mí me gusta, and me gusta means I like. The pronoun for you like is a ti, and again, that's not necessary. You don't have to have it. But the form for you like is te gusta, T-E, te gusta. You already know this because one of your vocabulary words is que te gusta hacer, and you've been learning how to use that in sentences. You use te gusta as a question, like te gusta beber el agua or something like that. So you know te gusta means you like. Down here we have a return to our normal pronouns, él, ella, and usted, but it has the a in front of it. Okay, so for he, she, or you formal, he or she likes, or you formal like, we would use le gusta, L-E, gusta. Le gusta means he likes, she likes, or you formal like. Okay, and I'd use that if I'm talking about one person or if I'm talking to a formal person. So if you were going to talk to me, you would say, Señora Miller, a usted le gusta leer. You like to read, if you were telling me that that's what I like. For the we section of the chart, to talk about myself and others, a nosotros or a nosotras, that part is the same. We just have the a. And the word is nos gusta, N-O-S, gusta. Sorry, my handwriting's not so great there. Nos gusta means we like. Okay, so I could say nos gusta aprender el español. We like to learn Spanish because, of course, that's true. For the vosotros and vosotras, the a vosotros, a vosotras, it's os gusta. Os gusta is the form that we will use for y'all like, or you all familiar in Spain. Like, remember, we only use that form in Spain. And finally, the bottom part for the they section, a ellos or a ellas, or you all if I'm not in Spain. A ellos, a ellas, or a ustedes les gusta, L-E-S. Les gusta means they like, or you all like if you're not in Spain, or you all formal if you are in Spain. So if, for example, I was going to say the students like to talk in class, I would say a los estudiantes les gusta hablar en clase, to say they like to talk in class. Or if I was going to say you all like to learn Spanish, because you do, I would say a ustedes les gusta aprender el español. Okay? So these are the different forms of gusta. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. Notice that the beginning part is all that changes, because literally what we're saying here is it is pleasing to me. It is pleasing to me to run. It is pleasing to you to eat pizza. It is pleasing to him or her to, I don't know, drink water, something like that. Okay, so there's lots of things that we could say. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. It's just those little words at the beginning that are going to change when we conjugate the verb gustar. All right, so when we want to put this together with our infinitives, we're going to use a form of gusta with an infinitive to say what someone likes to do. Okay, so we're conjugating gusta. We can include the pronoun or not, okay, like in the sentence, I like to draw, okay. We could say a mí, but we don't have to. Me gusta dibujar. I like to draw, okay. Remember, this part, unconjugated, we're just going to leave it how it is. I like to draw. In another example, he likes to read. I could have a él, or I could have someone's name if I was going to say like a Jose for Jose likes to read, or not. I don't have to have that. I could just say le gusta leer for he likes to read. Leer is the infinitive that I would use for to read. So I'm putting those forms of gusta together with an infinitive, an unconjugated AR, ER, or IR verb to create a sentence. So if you were going to talk about me, some things that I like to do, that I would say about myself, are that I like to sing. Me gusta cantar. Me gusta mirar la televisión. Me gusta leer los libros. Y me gusta beber el café. Coffee. El café. So, in your notes, I want you to write 2 sentences. I'm sure that you like to do at least one of these things, okay? So one of your sentences is going to be, Mrs. Miller likes to, and so I want you to decide which form of the verb gustar would you use to talk about me. Think about that for just a second. Okay, so when you think about it, if you're talking about someone, hopefully you remember that you're going to use the el, ella, usted form to say le gusta. So your first sentence is going to start with a señora Miller le gusta and then something that I like to do from these options. Your second sentence is going to be about me and you, okay? Hopefully we share one of these things in common. If not, just pretend and say a nosotros or a nosotras if you're a girl, and then decide which form of gusta from the chart you would use to say we like. And then something that you and I both like to do. Hopefully it's different from your first sentence. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be doing some wrap-up practices for me to check when you next come to class. And for these practices, you're going to be writing some sentences in Spanish about a couple of different people to use different forms of gusta with infinitives. You're going to write one sentence about yourself to say, I like to, and then whatever you like to do. Try to use something that you haven't used in a while. Next one, about your best friend. It could be like he, or you could say their name, or you could say mi mejor amigo or amiga for my best friend likes to, and then whatever they like to do. Then you and your best friend, about both of you to say we, or you could say their name and I, or my best friend and I like to, blah, blah, blah. And then finally about your parents to say they like, or my parents like to, mis padres. And then make sure that you're using a different activity, a different infinitive for each one of these. I appreciate you guys sticking with this and taking good notes and coming to class prepared. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Adios y hasta luego.